It's my delight this afternoon to introduce to you a speaker who actually needs absolutely no introduction. He has been here time upon time before. However, he's not yet a bona fide member of Hamilton Rotary Club. So I hope that that's going to change very, very soon. Along with our guest speaker, we have Rhonda, we have Aaron, and we have Craig. But our guest speaker today is Mr. Glenn Jones, who is representing the Bermuda Tourism Authority, and he is coming to give us a wealth of information about the future prospects, I should say the positive future prospects of tourism in Bermuda. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Glenn Jones.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dill. I'm going to take you on the road with me. That's a really good introduction. I hope I can live up to it. It's my pleasure to come back and address you all. This time on the subject of Bermuda's beaches. It's something that I think all of us who live in Bermuda are passionate about, and we hope what you're about to see will make you excited about what we think the future could hold for our beaches. I'll introduce the people that I've brought with me today. Erin Smith is the Director of Research at the Bermuda Tourism Authority. She's going to help me with some of these slides that have to deal specifically with survey research that we did with beachgoers, visitors, and locals. Craig Burt is a Senior Parks Officer with the Department of Parks, and Rhonda Wood-Smith works with the Ministry of Economic Development. I think what you'll see in this presentation as well is that there are a great many departments and organizations that have their hands touching beaches in one way or the other. And we've been working hard to coordinate all of those hands and fingers so that they're all working and moving in the same direction. So one of the reasons we decided to look at the beach economy in Bermuda from the Bermuda Tourism Authority's perspective is because we thought there were great opportunities on the beaches that we weren't realizing from an economic and an experience standpoint. So we set about on the task of building a vision for the beaches. And in order to create that vision, we did several things. First, at the BTA, we formed an internal working group. That group is basically representative of all the divisions of the Bermuda Tourism Authority, be it research like Aaron, sales and marketing, product and experience. Even our CEO is part of this internal working group. Then we went about and canvassed beach concessionaires. We went and talked to those beach vendors who we think are doing a good job now about what their experience is like, where they think the victories are, where there are shortcomings. We conducted travel consumer research. Aaron's team led up this part where we talked directly to visitors who had recently been to Bermuda and those visitors who represent the set of demographics and psychographics that we want to come to Bermuda. We talked to them as well. We consulted with partners like our partners in the government, and then we formed a beach target list. We wanted to be ultra focused on which beaches we thought our beach economy vision should be applicable to. So you'll see more on that in a moment. And then we assisted the government with local beachgoer research, understanding that we have two audiences when we're talking about our beaches: visitors who come here to relax and to enjoy our pink sand beaches, but residents as well who recreation, picnics, holidays, who use the beaches a lot. And then we started the process of engaging the public. And in many ways, this is the first step in that process of engaging the public. But there'll be many other facets of this, as you'll see in the coming weeks. So on the government consultation side, here's an example of what I was talking about. These are the government departments and organizations that we've spoken with thus far. And we don't think we've reached everybody yet that we need to talk to. But the Cabinet's Economic Development Committee, Sustainable Development, Department of Land and Buildings, they write the leases for concessionaires who operate on the beach. Environmental Protection and Conservation Services, protecting the asset environmentally is critically important. Ministry of Economic Development to help us fully realize the jobs and entrepreneurial opportunities available on the beach. The Department of Communication and Information, Department of Parks, of course, which Craig represents, the Ministry of Public Works, the Department of Planning, and the Parks Commission. These are just all the bodies we've had dialogue with thus far in helping us to shape this vision. Outside of government, we also know there's going to be some non-government organization consultation that we'll have to do, and thus far we've spoken with BEST, and we'll show you in a moment what they had to say about our vision. So on that target list, this is where we decided to focus our attention on these 5 beaches. And I imagine they won't be too surprising to you because these are already beaches that are very popular in Bermuda, very popular among our visitors, and already have some kind of economic activity happening on them. Horseshoe Bay Beach, Shelley Bay, Clearwater Beach, Tobacco Bay, and John Smith's Bay. So as you listen to our vision, these are the beaches that we're talking about to execute the economic potential on. We wanted to make sure as well that our vision was restrained and responsible, understanding, of course, that we need to protect the environmental aspects of the beach, not only because it's the responsible thing to do, but quite honestly, it's what people are most attracted to about our beaches because they are beautiful natural assets. So we said our beach vision should focus on improving amenities instead of new development. In the 5 beaches that we mentioned, there's already some kind of development on those beaches. We're saying let's make them better instead of going to a beach where there's none and starting from scratch. Improve existing facilities at beaches already approved for commercial activity. The 5 beaches that we mentioned have all been designated by the Parks Commission as suitable for economic activity. So we're not plowing any new ground here. We're talking about going over the ground that we've already plowed and make it better. And our vision is on 5 beaches, as you saw on that target list, 5 of 40 public beaches. So again, we think these steps are restrained and responsible. In fact, there are 40 public beaches that any of us can go and enjoy at any time. We don't need to pay a fee or talk to anybody about access. We can just walk on. We're saying just 12% of those do we want to concentrate our economic activity on, and we think doing it that way still presents a huge economic opportunity for the country. So just 12% of our beaches is what we're talking about. The research plan. I'll actually invite Erin up to speak about this part. We did some exhaustive research with visitors and locals to find out what their desires were on the beach, and that helped us to shape this vision. Erin?
Thank you, Glenn. Good afternoon, everybody. We actually started the beach research. We conducted 4 phases to the research. As Glenn mentioned, we did consumers as well as local residents, just to make sure that everyone was in alignment before we proceeded. What were the thoughts and opinions ahead of time? Phase 1 of the 4 phases, and all of them have been completed now, was a quantitative online survey of potential visitors as well as previous visitors. So we wanted to get both opinions there. We divided the groups up by demographics, psychographics, and geographic areas. And when I say psychographics, that just means what are their habits, what do they like to do, what are they thinking more than just who they are. 2,900 respondents completed this first phase of the survey online. And the previous visitors that we spoke to were from our proprietary online panel. We have about 10,000 volunteers that are previous visitors to Bermuda that are available to do research projects like this when we need to get some feedback. So what did we find out in phase 1? Well, we found out, which is pretty obvious, I think, to all of us, that the beach experience is a really important part of why people come to Bermuda and what they're looking to do when they come to Bermuda. And that was true across the case of any type of visitor. But we asked them what their ideal beach is. And so off the top of their head, we didn't give them any suggestions. What they mentioned were abundant natural beauty and powdery sand. We asked them again, without giving them any options, just off the top of their head, when asked to select the most important attributes they wanted to find at the beach. Number 1 was cleanliness. Number 2, water quality. Number 3, toilets. And finally, no overcrowding. And the list went all the way down to, let's say, 50 different attributes that all the different people mentioned, but these were the most commonly mentioned top 5. And visitors desire primarily casual dining options near the beach. So nothing too fancy, but they definitely want to have some options, and they want it to be fairly casual. And they expect to pay moderate prices for the food, beverages, and services. Again, that goes with the casual options that they're looking for. Phase 2, we wanted to get some more in-depth information from visitors, so we did some focus groups. We wanted to talk to them in person and get more of what they were telling us in the first phase. So we did some qualitative focus groups in New York and in Boston, our 2 major source markets. And we did 4 2-hour focus groups, and we did, again, a mix of potential visitors to Bermuda as well as those who had already been here. And we used our target markets demographically and psychographically to figure out who not only would be interested in coming to Bermuda, who we feel we have the most potential to grow, and also who's economically able to afford a trip to Bermuda. So what we found out in phase 2 was that their general preference for public beaches are that they're easy to access. It's not too much trouble for them to find them or get to them. They want a relaxing energy, but they also want available activities. So it was sort of a contradiction, but we had to get that nuance out of them, which was basically they want options, they want things available, they want a nice active vibe at the beach, but they also don't want it to be overcrowded, too noisy, nothing right in their face. They had interest in basic amenities such as chair rentals, towel service, and equipment rentals, and clean bathrooms were an absolute necessity. So that was something we heard time and time again. That's a basic must-have. That is not optional. The bathrooms have to be clean, well-maintained, and functioning. And they would also appreciate an array of high-quality but casual food options. So again, what we heard in phase 2, but more detailed. They want them as close to the beach as possible, and they also want to have the option of getting something local, maybe fish or seafood, something that they can't get at home or in another location. So phase 3, this is when we moved to getting some feedback from local residents and local beachgoers. We did a local poll with 400 residents, which was representative of Bermuda's population based on demographics, and 79% of them felt that Bermuda's public beaches are already better than most of those found in other destinations. The reasons that they gave were for the natural beauty, our pink sand, and that it's spacious and not too overcrowded. And those who felt that we actually have worse public beaches than other destinations, some of the reasons they gave for that were lack of activities, entertainment, rental equipment, food options, and the restroom facilities needed improvements. So phase 4 was the final phase of the research, and we actually used our friends of the government to help us get us access to all the civil servants, and we asked them to complete a quick survey, which gave us a pretty good cross-section of Bermuda's population. 543 of them completed the survey. And we basically asked them the exact same questions that we asked visitors in phase 1 to identify any gaps and differences in opinion between locals and visitors. So we asked them their ideal experience, what's most important to them at the beach, what dining options they want, and what prices they expect to pay. And so what we found was that there really aren't too many differences between what visitors told us and what residents want. The ideal beach for a resident is clean, peaceful and calm and beautiful. And when we asked them the same question about selecting their most important attributes, cleanliness came up as number 1, which is the same as visitors, water quality number 2, and toilets number 3. So those were all the same as the top 3 of the visitors. And rounding out the top 5 for locals were lifeguards and public parking, which was not exactly top of mind for visitors. And visitors told us in phase 1 that they really wanted casual dining options near the beach where they could sit down and maybe have service to their beach chair. But residents were more likely to want things like food trucks and food carts, takeaway things that they could just get for themselves. And also residents were willing to pay slightly less for amenities on the beach than the visitors said that they were. So that's it on the research. I'm going to hand it back over to Glenn.
Thank you, Erin. Now after we completed those elements, particularly the consumer research, we felt like we had all the ingredients we needed to build a vision statement for our beaches. We used traveler feedback, local beachgoer feedback. Brand alignment was important for us because, as some of you may know, we've refreshed our brand for Bermuda tourism. So we wanted to make sure whatever vision we were building was also consistent with the brand that we were building. And stakeholder consultation was also an important ingredient. Now, on the traveler feedback side, we found ourselves coming back to these 5 words, and you saw them appear prominently in the research findings that Erin just shared with you. People want beaches to be clean, beautiful, casual, relaxed, and have service amenities as well. We feel like if we were drilling it down to just a collection of words, that these would be the most important words in consumer desires. On brand alignment, we were interested in making sure we checked the boxes on these 3 elements. We wanted the experience on the beach to be authentic, we want it to be cultural, And because pink sand beaches are so critically important in the desires and imaginations of our visitors, it should be iconic. When people come to Bermuda, they are coming partly because, if not solely because, we have pink sand beaches. So the experience should be iconic in that way too. So we wanted to make sure our vision checked those boxes. So when we kind of put all those words together around a boardroom table, this is basically the vision statement we came up with. The Bermuda pink sand beach experience must be iconic, memorable for its natural beauty, complemented by cleanliness and casual amenities that are culturally authentic, true to the island's attitude of unpretentious relaxation and warm hospitality. We think these are a group of words that we can rally around in terms of working with our public partners, working with vendors and concessionaires, and ultimately in what we're trying to deliver to visitors when they come to Bermuda. It was also very helpful, obviously, that the consumer expectations were aligned, because we could end up in a situation where visitors and locals wanted completely different things. And how do you satisfy two audiences that are in separate directions? We don't have that problem, luckily. Luckily, local beachgoers and visiting beach users have aligned expectations for their Bermuda Beach experience, which is very, very helpful. So we think if we're going to fill the gaps that are created through the research and provide locals and visitors with what they want at the beach, we have a tremendous opportunity to create jobs. And that's what this slide is about. Let's talk about just these three options, for example. There are many other things we can deliver against, but let's just talk about cleanliness on the beach. That means beach maintenance. That means the upkeep of facilities. That means landscaping. On service, we could be talking about the service of drinks, of towels, of lounge chairs, of food. And on the cultural side, you can get very creative. Hair braiding is one of the things we put on the list. Bermuda cocktails, Bermudian food, local music and live entertainment. These are just a small sample of the kinds of things we could be doing at the beach on a regular basis to fill that gap between what consumers say they want and what we're providing right now. Now, in talking with our government partners, we also appreciate that these aspects will be very, very important as we go forward. Coordination chief among them, because at present, on the 5 beaches that we have on our target list, they don't all sort of have the same landlord. They're not all governed in the same way. And if they could be coordinated in that way, we think that'll give us a position of strength. Transport plan. We think this could be very helpful when it comes to something like overcrowding at the beach. We know that there are periods of the summer where Horseshoe Bay Beach is overwhelmed with visitors who are staying in our hotels, but also here on cruises and locals who use the beach. We think if we have a target list of 5 beaches and articulate to visitors particularly what those beaches offer, people will pick which beaches to go on based on what the offerings are. The best example that I like to cite is Shelley Bay Beach. If there was a commitment, for example, that was going to be the beach for families because the water is shallow and they have a playground, when families come to Bermuda on a cruise, they might choose Shelley Bay instead of Horseshoe Bay because before they got here, it's the only one they knew about. And then when you look at transport again, you can get them there by water, for example, instead of using the roads to transport someone from Dockyard to Shelley Bay. A jobs plan, just articulating just how many jobs we're talking about. Is it 20? Is it 50? Is it 100? Is it 150 when we're fully executing on the plan? A night life plan is important. We think there's a tremendous opportunity to use our beaches at night in a responsible way that will encourage further revenue generation on the beach. And then ultimately, we want to educate the public on all of this, and that's part of what we're doing today. And part of what we're working with the government on a program for CITV. I'll just show you a quick snippet of what we're doing in that regard. I'm going to hold the microphone a little closer to the computer so you can hear it. And I apologize, you're going to have to tolerate me a little bit more because I'm the one in this video as well. Ultimately, the finished product will be a program that airs on CITV to explain to people what we're doing with the Beach Vision. Oh, wait, I didn't do that right.
Now, whenever we talk about the beaches here in Bermuda, there's always that element of the environment and concerns about what's going to change in the natural landscape. How is the vision going to take that into account?
No, that's a really good question. So we're not only saying that we should be balanced in this approach, we're saying that we have to be. Because if we don't look out for the environmental sensibilities, we actually destroy the economic opportunity that we have. So there has to be a balance. And we also think that our beaches, at least these 5 in particular that I've been talking about, should not be protected from economic development. They should be protected because it's an economic opportunity for the country, and there's a big difference there. All across the island, there are 40 beaches that you and I can go enjoy. We're talking about 5 of them, 12%. And we think that, too, is a very balanced and reasonable approach. That's what we've explained the best and to the Parks Commission, so we hope that they agree there's an economic opportunity here that can be realized without destroying it environmentally. And we think ultimately that premise, that idea is going to be very important to the public because, of course, we're a community that cares a great deal about our beaches and their environmental sensitivities. That's why we're pretty proud to have shown this same vision to BEST and get this response from them. BEST was comfortable with the BTA's overall vision to improve existing services and amenities on 5 public beaches, recognizing that some of Bermuda's beaches should remain pristine and none should be developed near their carrying capacity. BEST was also supportive of the BTA's commitment to not build on beaches not yet developed. We do recognize that for some beachgoers, our 5 on the target list actually are not what they prefer. They prefer Cooper's Island, where they can, bring their own food and refreshment and enjoy it without having any concessions on the beach. We think it's important to also protect that part in our collection of beaches. Horseshoe Bay Beach is, of course, the crown jewel, and it is recognized by TripAdvisor, the world's largest travel site, as one of the best beaches in the world. Already it's ranked 6th in the Caribbean region and 24th in the world, and it will be awarded by TripAdvisor's Traveler's Choice Award in 2016 as well. And that's why we think it might be fun to have a national goal for Horseshoe Bay Beach. Why not try to make it #1 in the world? We think its natural beauty has that potential if we can complement that with the right level of services and the right level of cultural identity and availabilities, that we can truly make it a beach that the rest of the world will be very envious of. All right, so that basically sums up the vision from our point of view. I'll invite my colleague Craig Burt up now to talk a little bit about what they're doing on the Parks, Department of Parks side. And they've been great to work with because I think more than anything, they value the research that we were able to conduct, which really does educate us on how we move forward to improving the beaches. So Craig, I'll turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. As I am Craig, that's what I like to be called as. I'm flexible. I work for the Department of Parks, and one of the things that, as was outlined in the presentation, is that we actually work by the 1986 Bermuda National Parks Act. There's been an amendment in place for 2009 that once all the maps are finished, that will be the new act in place, and it will govern some of the things. So we've grown over the years, and we work with the Tourism Authority and other partners in the Bermuda government to actually work with these 5 beaches. As Glenn mentioned, there are 2 of those locations are not directly under the Parks Department management, but we see that there is a goal to improve amenities at the parks and beaches that we have. And one of the things that comes up was the cleanliness and the toilets. Yes, that is our department that deals with that. So we work with one crew at present, but we're also getting some other vendors in place to assist with the management and the cleanliness of the toilets that we do have at the beaches. And we're also looking at bringing in new ones to improve the resource there. With the goal that they have to upgrade the facilities, the proposals are sent to the Department of Parks and then to the Parks Commission, which is obviously the Minister's Board, and we work by the goals and objectives that are listed in our act. And so it's actually been a good thing where we've networked with the various organizations so that we can not just improve the amenities, but also provide that level of protection. Because what we have found over the last 2 years, we have a nucleus of people that have come forward. We've had in the region of 75 to 100 different submissions for concessions that will take place, that want to take place within the parks and beaches. So some of those are not necessarily ideal for the park system, so we have to say no at times, but also there's some that have come forward and we've worked out some parameters that will work, so the experience is good for everyone that goes to that particular beach to enjoy it. With the ones that we targeted, yes, some do have a building, like Shelley Bay. Shelley Bay is going to be developed over the next few years. We worked out a resolution that will benefit getting that project going forward. So there should be some movement on that coming up. Obviously, with Clearwater Beach that was mentioned, when that facility opened up with the Gumbay's restaurant, that's the active part of that particular area. But as Glenn mentioned, we then have Cooper's Island, which is in the background, where people just want to go sit off, go snorkeling, enjoy the amenities that were there, watch birds. So we try to create that balance. And the arm that I work for in the Parks Department, the Park Ranger Service, we're the ones that we have to go and do the enforcement part. So we have the fun of that, the joy of that. But we also, one of the things that came up were some of the tourists and visitors coming to the island, or even the residents here, they want a lifeguard service. So we also have the lifeguard service will come under our department as well. So that's how we network with the various, say, visitors and patrons that come to the beach. We look at not just protecting resources, but also providing a level of protection for the visitors that go there. And we try to manage the balance on the requests that come out for the use of parks and the beaches that are island-wide. And that's why we're pleased that with the goal and with the partners that we've got here, BEDC, Tourism Authority, that we know what the hub will be and what the goal will be, and then we can work together to get that to the next step with the development of the resource, but also the protection of the natural resources for everyone's enjoyment. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. So that basically wraps up the presentation, but I guess I should just reiterate, it does take a tremendous amount of coordination to do this effectively, and consultation to make sure we have the public support as well. And I think that's the part of this project that we're about to endeavor on next. And it'll be interesting to see what the public conversation is like when they see the opportunity and hopefully understand the responsible and restrained way that we're going to attempt to pursue this, while also creating what I hope is a tremendous amount of jobs. So thank you very much.
Are you willing to answer questions?
Sure.
Are there any questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm interested to know which beaches in the Caribbean
Are ahead of us? You know, I can't remember. Do you remember what they are? I can't remember what they are. But if you go to TripAdvisor, you'll find out what they are. I think there's one in Barbados that always does extremely well. But we hope to overtake them over the next couple of years.
Who does the rating?
Travelers.
Yeah, so they probably just had more people going there.
Well, that might be it. I mean, I think their formula on how they decide this is a little more complex than just volume. They do look at some specific things. But, you know, there's only 5 people in front of us. We can catch them.
I don't know one beach in Barbados that's as good as here.
Okay, good. 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 Well, you know, maybe what that's telling us is that we haven't hit the mark on the amenity side yet. And as soon as we do, it'll catapult us up the rest of the way. Yeah.
They have those services.
Yeah.
We've been coming and enjoying these beaches for 14 years. They are gorgeous and unique and special. Also, Church Bay didn't make the cut.
Well, they didn't make the cut of the ones that we're going to target. What we might be saying about any beach not on the list is that it's actually doing fine the way it is, and there's no need to touch it.
What I wanted to ask is this. Years ago, we would come, land at the airport. There was this one-man band that had island music that he would play. And you came in to stand in the long lines in the big building. And all of a sudden, he's not there. And I keep thinking, where's the spirit? And it wouldn't take anything other than an iPod plugged into the existing sound system. You know?
No, well,
It also could be a job for some of these musicians on the island. I'm just saying, there seems to be a need that tourism is not saying when you get off of that plane onto the island, you see these beautiful water, and all of a sudden you turn the music off.
Right. Well, I don't disagree with you that what the music does is it does tell a story about the spirit of the people, right? And that's ultimately what people remember the most, or one of the things they remember the most after a visit to Bermuda. Now, the specific example you cited about someone playing at the airport, that's not really in our realm of this responsibility. We don't have any responsibility over the airport. But the truth is, we don't really have any responsibility over beaches either. But what we've been able to do is find a way to provide some level of information to our partners in government that forces action. And anytime we're able to do that, that's the road that we try to travel on.
You don't have any influence on the tourism that comes into the airport?
We don't have any influence on what happens at the airport.
Really?
That is correct.
I can just answer your question on Church Bay. Church Bay is one of the smaller beaches and is well known for the snorkeling. But at Church Bay, we will have 2 concession operators in place this year. one down on the beach, and they will deal with snorkeling and chair rentals, and then we will have a second one up in the top parking lot, and they'll be providing refreshments, snowballs, and stuff like that. So even though it's not on the list of the 5 that we're targeting, we have opened up certain areas where we will have concessions, because when I first started at parks, there were only limited places that had concession operations going. Joseph's Bay, Elbow Beach, and Chaplin Bay, places like that. So we've expanded to include other areas that will have small concessions, and they'll be the mobile type, as opposed to the fixed building, so that you will have a resource and amenities provided.
And if I could add, sir, I will take your comment back to my ministry, because as a local, I also enjoy paying that usually when they return to communities that come in.
Good.
Yeah, I think that our target list is really about volume. That was sort of one of the thresholds we used to figure out if it should be on the list. Church Bay is a gorgeous beach. It doesn't get the volume, of course, that Horseshoe Bay and Clearwater and some of the others get.
I'm just looking at this image you have up there, and there's Horseshoe Bay jammed. And there you are, 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 beaches down the road there, including Warkalong Bay, and there's virtually nobody on them. Now, does it suggest that maybe Horseshoe Bay is already too overused? In fact, I'll avoid it during the cruise ship season to stay away from the masses that are there. And the need to disperse people more, particularly the cruise people.
Yes, definitely. That's one of the reasons our list is 5 and not 3 or 2. We think if we can create clear identities for those other beaches, because there is reliable and knowable services at those beaches that hopefully even speak to the specific psychographics and demographics that we are pursuing at tourism, we can then very easily convince those people to go to a different beach. In the Shelley Bay example that I gave, one of the psychographics we pursue is something called Go For It families, families with young children. If we can market to them ahead of time that Shelley Bay has shallow water and low wake and playgrounds, and the concessionaire there serves ice cream and cotton candy, the decision for that family will probably be to go to Shelley Bay because it has what they're looking for. So we think that's one of the reasons we need to articulate as much as possible what the beaches are on our target list and what they offer, so that we can tell visitors even before they arrive, and we hope that helps with the overcrowding.
Is Somerset Long Bay on your potential list?
It is not on the list that we have on our target list, no. But we do imagine a scenario soon where we almost have a guide where, you can sort of look on this dial of options for what suits you best and go there.
Yeah.
And that would be a list even further than the 5 we've mentioned here. Remember, the 5 that we're talking about are really about economic opportunities more than they are about anything else. Where can I go as an entrepreneur and provide a service that consumers are looking for, and I can make money? And I can hire somebody to help me deliver the service. That's what the target list is really about. The potential for that at Church Bay and at Somerset Long Bay and some of our other beaches exists, but not as sharply as it exists at the 5 beaches on that list. And that's part of the reason we chose them.
Can I ask another question?
I think so, yeah.
I was on the board of governors for KBB for 10 or 15 years, so cleanliness is a key issue, and it came up again and again and again. And
That is
again,
correct,
and
yeah.
Not just the beach itself, but also the facilities, the bathrooms in particular. The number one offender is the cigarette smoker. No question about it. If you actually count the number of items that you guys pick up off the beach, cigarette butts will be the number one. And I can't help wondering if there is some way you could get to the cigarette smokers so they don't stop their butt in the sand and walk away and leave it.
No, that's a good point,
It's not the
Deemer.
beer tins in so much as in terms of numbers of items.
Right.
It is the cigarette butt by far.
No, that's a good
Am I
point. I
right,
can see
Craig?
why that would be the case, yeah. Well, I mean, this doesn't address the specific concern you have there, and I'm grateful to have it. I'll take that back to the group. But we are working with the Ministry of Public Works on setting up new beach bins and recycle bins at Horseshoe Bay, just to help with the volume of garbage during the peak periods. And KBB is actually the one who brought our 2 sites together to work on this. And we've done it in a way where we hope we can inspire others in the private sector to do the same thing, where you're seen sort of as a good corporate citizen for helping keeping the beaches clean. And we know from our consumer research that it's something very important to people who use the beaches. So we're working in that area.